I'd like to call the meeting of the Facilities Committee to order at 6:30 p.m. Roll call.
Stephanie Olson,
Here.
David Pombo,
Here.
Jimmy LeGrand, Jason Dixon,
Here.
Thorsten Harrison,
Here.
Munir Udin.
Here.
We're going to move on to item 3, receiving of public comments. Is there anybody here that would like to make a public comment at this time? Seeing no hands raised, we'll move on to item 4, facility use update. The meeting minutes from last meeting are available online to review. I assume, any questions about those, or can we move on? Yeah. Item B, the finance report. Staff report?
So finance reports are in here for each school. For the facilities use, as you can see, as we have historically. And our balance is $374,571.51 as of today.
Moving on, item C, facility usage reports from April 20th, 2023 through September 12th, 2023. Staff report.
So we have each school in here. The facility use, as you can see, the NPRs are the most used facilities generally at the K-8 schools. And then at the high school, it's obviously the gym and field use. And then at the K-8 schools, there's also a number of fields that are used on an ongoing basis when it comes to outside community use.
Any questions from the committee? All right, moving on, item D, denied applications. Yeah, oh, sorry, staff report, I didn't say that, sorry.
With the paper, it does take a little bit longer to get to. So we have the list of refunds there, deposit refunds for individuals and groups that, yeah. And then denied and rejected applications, there are, I think, 4 pages to this, 3 pages. And as you can see in column 4 and 5, the reason for the denied or rejected application, and then the accommodations that we made. In most occurrences, we try to provide for another facility for the group. Sometimes it's just a matter that we don't have staff to cover the event, as we've talked about in the past. And in some cases, groups resubmit, find a new date, and try to resubmit and change the date of their activity.
Any questions or comments by the committee? Nope. Thank you. Moving on to item E, reimbursements to organizations. Staff report?
That's the one I was at. Okay, I was out of order, sorry. So the refunds here are, there's 5 of them, and we were refunded deposits because the individuals couldn't use our facilities because of timing or lack of staff. And then the first, number 1, says Tier 3. The reason it says Tier 3 is because that group put that under the name of the user group. They put Tier 3, so we put Tier 3 in here, but it was actually a private user group that was doing a private organization graduation, and we didn't have coverage for them. But it says Tier 3, which looks weird, but that's how they filled it out.
Okay.
So.
Any questions? No. Moving on to item 5, information and discussion items. Item A, Montessori School Cuesta, staff report.
So we had a request from the Montessori program, and I believe if you'd like to come up to the podium to talk about your request. There's a picture in your packet of the request.
My name is Pamela Rigg. I'm the administrator of the Montessori School here in Mountain House. It's called Montessori School of Mountain House. We're at the Cuesta school site for portable classrooms. We've been there towards 10 years. I think we have a 2-year lease and we're entering our second year of that lease. The current signage.
We have pictures up, ma'am, on the screen, you see?
Great. Then you've got the original. So the lower picture is the current identification, which isn't as accurate, I would say, is the one we're proposing, which is on the top, which reads Montessori School of Mountain House, or Montessori Mountain House, and then it lists the toddler and preschool programs. And so we're requesting to, pay for that signage to go on that building. Questions?
So,
When you say you're requesting,
Permission?
so you're suggesting that your company, your group, will pay for the signage, you want permission to do it. Is that, am I understanding you correctly?
Exactly. So we need authorization or permission. And there would be a signage type company that would, make it and install it.
I see the requested, it appears as though the original signage is removed. Is that part of the request, to remove that, or just to add the new signage?
Well, I hadn't asked myself that question. I guess it would seem kind of cluttered. And Cuesta does not have a child development center, so it wouldn't be kind of a truth in advertising. I mean, the simple answer would be we're asking for replacement so it accurately signifies what's in the building.
So you would be requesting to remove the signage that's there and replace it with your new signage?
That's correct.
any other questions from Munir?
Like the signage removal, right? Is it a legal name or is just trying to change the name on like whole process, like from? Do you guys change the name or just the signage? Yeah.
The name of the school. Well, first of all, it is a corporation, so it's a legal entity, the Montessori, and we're requesting that that legal entity be shown on the building. The name was that your question?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
I have a question. The position of the district, the reason the signage that is currently there is on the preschool, is that because, I mean, this is district property, so, and we're leasing it currently, which means at any point there could be a need for us to use the building. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, and with the negotiations that our superintendent is doing with developers, at some point in the future, we may need to use these buildings as we did at Altamont, where we took on the 4 extra classrooms at Altamont that we used to rent to one of the child programs. I can't remember their name. But yes, your concern is valid. At some point, we may have to use these classrooms because we may run out of space once they start developing over in K across highway.
Or even adding residential to Cuesta itself.
Yes, the building that's going on right there, yeah, and on the back side of the school, on the north side of the development, yeah. So there is an uncertainty, I guess that's a better way to put it, of whether we would need to use those facilities at some point in the future.
Could I comment on that? I think when renters use a facility, there can be a clause, and often there is, that when you leave, you return it to its original, shape. So you could certainly put in a legal document that, yes, as long as you're there, that signage can be there, and at the point at which Montessori no longer has the lease, then that signage needs to be removed, and at the district's discretion, Montessori would have to put the original signage back. Now, of course, if you're going to use it for something altogether different, you may not want that signage. But that, as in any lease, you can reasonably say return to its original, or remove the signage that was authorized. Or the signage can remain as long as you have a lease. And at the point you no longer have a lease, the signage would need to be removed.
From the committee?
Have you thought about what kind of sign you're going to use? Are you going to use, these look like individual letters that are screwed into the wall? Are you just going to make one big sign where we're only putting 4 holes in the walls? Or have you thought about that?
What seems to be popular and classier is, rather than the tacked on big sign, is that raised letter look. That's seems to be the modern approach. I don't have a vested interest. If the district says, oh, we really want, a 4x8 plywood screw on, 4 corners, that's fine.
Yeah, we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, that's a
what he's
little
saying is,
tacky.
a lot of times with the lettering, you have a bar that goes across and the lettering is on the bar, and then you just attach the bar with 2 screws. So you don't have as many holes in the wall I think that's what he's asking.
Right. And then in the future, if we ever repurpose the buildings, less holes in the wall for us to take off and patch. That's why
Sure.
I asked the question. So,
Oh, design is, up to the district, and it would be easier at the point when we have to remove it. I mean,
Okay.
times change,
Any other questions over here? No. Mr. Bombo?
Personally, I don't have a problem with them putting their identifying information on the building as long as they are using the building. I'm a bit torn on taking the Cuesta name off of the building, since it is part of the Cuesta campus, but is it staff's position that this is something that the committee can say yay or nay to, or we can say yay or nay to forwarding it to the board for approval?
So the reason when this came up, I wanted to bring it here is because they lease our facilities, and they've been a really good partner for many, many years. And I don't think we've done this before. So that's why I think it would be a smart move to say, yeah, I think we could do this, and then bring it to the board and make a decision on that way. It is our facility, but it is a facility that supports the kids of our community. If and when, I like the idea of if and when we have to take it over and take it from them, because we may have to do that at some point, having a clause in the contract where they remove and return to original status.
And it, as she mentioned, it should be returned to original status at the district's discretion. In other words, if we say we don't want those words back on there, just have all the holes from the original and the replacement signage patched and painted and back to original in that sense.
I think that would be fair.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair proposal to put that into the contract language, and I don't have an issue with them having the proper name on the facility that they're using.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm hearing is that we have a consensus to move this forward to the full board to get get their stamp of approval or not, and
I think procedurally, that's what we do with other things that we decide here, right?
Yes.
Typically.
that's typical. So,
Okay.
so that would be the next board.
So is
board
that my direction to
Yes.
bring it to the October 17th
October 17th meeting, yes.
board meeting as info, or a action item? Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you.
Is there something further I should do? In other words, a letter that reflects some of this discussion?
My assistant will be in touch with you, and we'll talk about a letter to the board as a part of the attachments to memorialize the conversation that we had here and the criteria that we discussed today.
Right.
Does that work for you?
Okay, thank you.
And you would be more than welcome to come and make public comment to the full board if you,
On the 17th?
Mhm.
It must be wise to be there in case. Thank you.
Moving on to the next item, item B, Facilitron demo, staff report.
I've had Mr. Jason Dixon. This is his first Facilities Committee meeting. He's our Director of Maintenance Operations, Transportation and Facilities. He has been doing some research on Facilitron, which Mr. LeGrand and I had done some research on previously. He's going to give a presentation on this and kind of go through the product, how it works, and then the practicality of how it worked in a large district that he previously worked in, with some feedback from the individuals in that district. This is a product that is designed to help us with facility rental, an automated product that would be online. It is the front runner right now, but this is not a finished product. We're still looking, but I wanted the group to see some of the tools that are available out there through the Facilitron presentation. So, Jason, if you're ready, go for it.
Okay, so Facilitron, as Ms. Harrison was just saying, is basically a third-party rental system that they create the website, they help run it, and they come in, and you can use it for what we're using civic permits for now: education, sports, music, arts, outside groups. Again, it's a facility management platform. It's used to create schedules, manage requests from the community. It has an easy-to-use dashboard. This dashboard is basically where we would run things from. It gives us all the information we need. You can see pending requests, upcoming events. You can see reservations, what that looks like, payments, anything you need to know about what's going on with civic permits. You can use the dashboard for. And then getting started. So planning and organization, what it's used for. Planning and organization, so it helps engage the appropriate stakeholders and begin the implementation process. So they come in and they find out first, who all is involved with this, who do we talk to, who are the players. There's an implementation and a training process. So they come in, they do all the training once they get the website built. They do all the training. It configures the fee schedules based on what we give them. Rate categories, the rules for using the facilities, and more. They come out and take all indoor and outdoor photos. So they'll use drones, take photos of all the campuses. They'll come out and take photos of every room and space that we are going to rent. So if we're not renting those areas, they won't come out and take those photos. And then they implement all the materials into the system and hold training sessions. Then there's a go live period, so they'll come in and do the training. There's a soft launch, which allows our team to familiarize them with the process. And after a week, they make it a public announcement and they provide links to the site. And then they offer support, so it's 24/7 customer support for both organization and external customers. They are the ones who are basically the middlemen for the community. So between the school district and the community. So what happens is when dealing with civic permits, we deal with a lot of routine questions. A lot of time is spent around routine questions and various items that come in. they handle those frontline questions, and then when it gets to a point where they can't handle it or they're not sure what the answer to that is, then it gets forwarded to us, and we get involved and take care of it from there. So it takes that responsibility off of our people, so that frees them up for other items. The cost analysis is a tool that is used in this, so it pairs utilization data with financial expense and square footage data, provides facility owners an accurate cost per hour to operate the various buildings and grounds. Basically, what it does, it gives us a baseline and tells us what it's actually costing us to use the facility, wear and tear, labor, all that, and what we're making on it and the difference. So if we need to adjust in the future, we can, but at least we know what that cost is. Using that cost analysis and utilization data to make decisions on policy. Again, it answers the questions, the cost analysis answers the questions. What are the actual costs of operating the facilities? Are the rate schedules for the community organizations allowing us to recover the actual cost? Do the costs of using the facilities internally need to be made more efficient? The district or facility owner receive a benefit equal to the cost? Do we expect wear and tear issues such as turf field or gym floor life? So one of the good things about this company is they have a lot of schools, and so they're getting a lot of data that they're taking in from those schools, and they can tell you, for example, the turf on the fields, we get so many tears, throughout a year. This is what you can expect. And so those kinds of things that we wouldn't know until it happened, they give us a heads up on. And then it also, are we documenting, we provide equal access, so it keeps all those records for facilities, Title IX, boys and girls. Are we charging community organization consistently across all facilities? So is our rate schedule appropriate for what it should be? As you can see, this is just an example of what's on the screen here of what it would look like. So your football stadium, how many hours, the fees we recovered, the direct cost to the district. There's a big discrepancy there. You can see that, but it just gives you all these numbers and basically tells you a total at the bottom. One of the good points about Facilitron is, one of the hard parts with civic permits right now is every community organization, whether it be private or public or nonprofit, has to find their own liability insurance. And they go through all these different places to find it, and there's varying rates and fees and that kind of thing. Facilitron, through the website, offers liability insurance. It's relatively cheap, starts at around $20 or $25, and can go up depending on the amount of people that are going to be at a function. But it's easy to access. You can just click on it right there, and you don't have to find documents and send those in and support it. It just clicks the box for you. Yes, you have insurance, and then you're good to go. Cost to district. So there is no out-of-pocket cost to the district. The good thing about this is it's fees that are based on collections. So they take a set 10% fee of anything that's collected. So once they handle collections, so once the customer pays, then they get their 10%. So they make sure that the customers are paying. And then there's a bonus there if you use it for another item such as work orders. There are various things you can use it for. They just charge a different fee, but it's based off the rental fees of the civic permit process. So using it for work orders, for example, would be free. It's just the 14% based on the civic permit fees. The collection process, again, it's all processed through Facilitron, various payment options. They do check, credit card, PayPal, e-checks. Facilitron works with Lammersville to create a payment policy. It's whatever our payment policy is. So if we give them 30 days, that's what they give them. It's just what our rules are that is on the site. And then they get paid when we get paid. So they work to collect the fees that go uncollected. Customer service, again, they're real big on customer service because they don't get paid until we get paid. Facilitron handles the first tier level. Again, they're that first line of, in between the district and between between the district and the community. They screen calls. They go by the set policy, whatever our set policy is. If it can't be resolved, it then comes through the appropriate channels to us. We still see all the communication, so when a customer emails and talks to Facilitron, we see those emails. We see that communication. We know what's appropriate and not. So The next slides is actual school district use. So where I came from, Sac City Schools, we had begun using Facilitron. So this is a screenshot off of their website, just as we have Lammersville website. There's a link to it on the website. They connected to it. You go to that link, it takes you into the Facilitron, and then you're able to go through and use the process for the civic permits. The next slide there is the dashboard. Again, this is the actual dashboard for Sac City, so you can see there's different comments. It's a little grainy there, but there's comments. You can see the bookings, how many bookings they have, the request, what's pending, how many are declined. It gives you percentages and kind of can let you run your business a little more efficiently. Here is just one of the schools, so you can see how they do the spaces. So they put the pictures in there of some of the schools there. Again, they take photos from above and they take photos like 360 all the way around. They put maps on there, show you how to get there. All of it's you can click on it, it'll take you right to those facilities. And then you can find what you're looking for. You can see pictures of the NPR room, for example. Be able to say, I want to rent this, I want it set up. There's also options if you want tables, it costs more, whatever that looks like for us, whatever we put on there. And then the next slide is typically from our perspective what a calendar would look like. You can see gray is like indoor, green is outdoor, blue is pool, various colors that kind of let you know what's coming up and what's being used and when they're overlapping. And you can click on each one of those. It takes you into that civic permit, and we can see all the details to it. Okay, so that's the Facilitron.
Thank you. I had a question, because, you know, you talk about like they don't charge a fee up front and then they take 10% of the rental fees. Probably, maybe don't have this information right now, but I was just curious, like, will that be less of a cost to the district than all the staff time that's currently being used to handle and process requests? I mean, rough math addition, because it sounds like this will save a lot of time, and
I would have to do some mathematical calculations.
Yeah.
To kind of get you the exact numbers on
Hard to
that.
say. We'll still be involved. We still have to arrange for the custodian.
So there will still be a lot of-
So we still have a level of involvement. It's not
Okay, so it's
100%
not-
on them. So our staff will still have to be involved.
okay,
We schedule the back end of everything.
the back end. Okay,
The custodial or whatever that
It's not 100% automated, unfortunately. So
But there would clearly be some staff time savings. We just don't know the quantity of it.
There would be, yes, sir, there would be some staff time savings. From what happened in Sac City, so I'm only giving that's the only example I know of. So what happened was it was very convoluted and confusing, the old system was, and then went to Facilitron, and it was almost an overnight swap. And so instead of dealing with all the community aspects of it, what we then became, and our one person became that was running it, she became sort of a tech type person. And she was fielding a lot of calls around, how do I work the site? Because if someone's been using the site for 10 years and then you switch to this one, there's a lot of questions. Well, what happens is those calls tapered off as people started to learn the site. And after about the first year, she doesn't really field those calls much anymore. It's more about, you know, is my account going through, and she can look it up. If they can't figure it out through Facilitron, she helps them out. But there is that switchover period where the groups that have used it for years, you know, got used to the old system, even if it was more inefficient, and it didn't tell us as much, it's still going to be a relearning. But once they relearn it, that you can kind of just see the graph. It just sort of goes down and tapers off, and then the questions become few and far between, depending on new people that sign up for it.
This is for whoever might have an answer. Do we know what, say, for instance, last year, what our total revenues from facilities use were? I'm just wondering what 10% of what number?
yeah.
Well, maybe I could add to that. So no, I don't have that number, but I could get it for this group for the next meeting, if you want that. What we talked about when we were Jason and I, and when we were talking about Facilitron, is we haven't changed our facility use fees since I've been here, and it's been 6 years. So it might be a time to change our facility use fees by 10%, then it's absorbed. I mean, everything else in this world costs a lot more money right now, and our fees have not changed.
Yeah. Other than custodial because of,
Custodial costs more money, yes, yeah. When they get a raise and it's negotiated, then the custodial fees cost more, but the facility use and rental has not changed.
Oh, and you're going kind of to fees and wear and tear. The slide you showed where it talked about like, you know, the profits they took from renting the facilities and then the cost to the district. Was that from an actual district? It's like,
From Sac City Schools, and it's pretty standard across the board for them, no matter what district they're in. It's a 10% fee.
right,
And they don't charge us like initial fees to come set it up, build the website, anything like that. They just charge 10, once we get it set up and we're up and running, they charge 10% of what's collected.
what's collected?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think what her question was, on your example, there were revenues for the football field of 100,000,
Yeah,
and
but the cost to the
the cost
district,
to the district was
a lot more.
a lot bigger number. If that was an actual case, or if that was just an example of what they do.
That is an actual case, not from Sac City, unfortunately, but that's a actual case from one of their sites that they put on there. You're never gonna recover the full 186,000 to operate a football field. But one thing that we learned in Sac City was once we changed over to Facilitron and we readjusted the fees, because again, they hadn't been adjusted forever, and we kind of could see that we weren't doing it. If you do it in the beginning, it's just a change with everything else, and everybody, it's just accepted.
Yeah.
If it waits till later, then it becomes more of, oh man, they're raising the fees on me now.
Yeah.
So it's just something to keep in mind.
Well, that slide was just interesting to me because I thought it was a really good illustration of what the cost of wear and tear is, and you know, just how much the district the cost to the district. It's not like people think we might be making money off of renting the facilities, but there's a wear and tear cost, and the data that the Facilitron provides it's interesting to me because it is a lot bigger gap than I even thought.
It's the data gets really in depth. So when the community has questions about what you're charging, or if they feel they're being overcharged, it's good. You can go back to the data. You know, we're not just making this up. It's actual numbers and statistics, and this is what we're looking at, and all the math has been done, and we're still not recovering what we, you know, are spending, but we somehow have to recoup some of the costs.
When you talked about the mapping and the pictures and that stuff, my mind immediately went to school safety and the fact that we don't publish maps of our school sites and those sorts of things. And I know Thor is very tuned into that. And my concern would be that we don't have a map out there that some evildoer might use to.
They only come in and take a picture of the room or the space that you will be using. So if it's a basketball gym, they just take a corner shot of a basketball gym. If it's a pool, they take an aerial shot of the pool. You know, if it's a class, if we're renting the classroom, they'll take a picture of that classroom. But they don't. There's not a map. It's not a map where you define where you're going. That kind of thing. It's still secure from that aspect.
All right.
Munir, you had a
Yeah.
question?
Basically, I know I'm a software field guy, so what you're talking, I can understand most of it. But a couple of questions related to that is basically the training wise, right? You are going to train our staff here. And the support wise, I believe you only have the call support. Do you have chat support or email support, or what type of supports you got?
So you get assigned an account rep, and you can call that person anytime. Now, this is for our support, right? So we can call that person anytime. We can email. A lot of times you can text. I know at Sac City we could text her. They'll answer any questions anytime, and so they have someone dedicated to your account that helps. They also have internal tech support, you could send up an email, just like a ticket, or you could also call them. We could call them. Now, from the customer side of that, it's that, you know, they email, they do a lot of stuff through email and all that. It's not really a call-in for it because they want to document it. If it becomes something, you know, that they want us to be able to see the conversation, not have a phone call that we don't know anything about, and then try to relay that message. So from the customer standpoint and the community standpoint, I would call it a ticket perspective where they're having issues, they input a ticket, or they say, I can't figure this out, and then we give them a call on our end and say, well, let me help you through the site, go here, here, and here, and we just walk them through it. So and at Sac City, we had to just walk them through a lot of things at first, and then once they got it, it's just learning a new website and clicking around, and once they figure it out.
Do you guys have a chat support as well for end users?
I'm sorry, what?
The chat, like phone call is one, right? Like a chat, we do like a chat, normal chat support.
We could get that.
We can get that.
Yeah, we can get that.
Not the community. 'Cause
Okay.
Again, the community, they want everything for us to see. So if there's a phone call, they want us to be making the phone call,
Okay.
not them, so.
So if I could add, so this is just one of the products that we've looked at, like when Jimmy and I started looking at this about a year ago, this is one that stood out the most. We found it from one of the other persons that works in this office. So he's going to look for more products that are like this moving forward. One of the things that we were curious, is this something that this group would be interested in implementing I see staff saving time. Initially, I don't think so. Initially, it's going to be a lot of work, but we have 300 different groups, user groups that go for our facilities. So
I mean, I think it's a good idea just because I know how much time staff puts into, you know, answering a lot of questions, like you mentioned in the report, a lot of questions that are commonly asked over and over by multiple groups, and that adds up to a lot of time, minutes, hours. And if there's an efficient way to get those questions answered still without like taking staff time, I think it's great. And I also think it's actually, as far as like if you're a community member trying to rent facilities, I do know that the challenge for a lot of them is the insurance. It's difficult for some people to get the right policy amount, and so this is also a benefit, to the users as well.
The insurance would just be an option, correct?
It's just an option. They can get their own and then submit the documents. but
Just a
that's-
convenience
It's
thing for them.
convenience, and usually it's cheaper through Facilitron. So, and to answer your question earlier, we do have those numbers here. Ms. Jennifer here just provided them. The total revenue for 2022-23, total revenue was $222,000. So if we were going just off that revenue, it'd be a $20,000 off of that. This year,
Which
currently,
doesn't pay much staff.
right? But this year, currently, we're at for 2023, 2024, we're at $83,600 currently. So at this rate, we're looking to kind of exceed what we did last year, but
one thing that I can guarantee is we're going to have more people using our facilities. It's gone exponentially crazy the last 4 years. Well, since COVID ended.
Yeah.
I hope I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. There wouldn't be any charges for internal use scheduling, right? It's just on money coming in?
that's a good question. So if our fee is still $0 for internal, then 10% of $0 is $0.
I just wasn't sure if there was some other, if it defaulted to something else, if there was no fee involved.
It's only based off money that comes in to.
So if, hypothetically, if we implemented this and our internal users, the schools and the sports teams and whatnot, ended up using 100% of our facilities 100% of the time, there would be no charge.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
It would be cloud-based, right? This is cloud-based software, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So let me add to the answer that Jason just gave. There is a minimum amount. So there is a minimum amount that your district has to have a historical rental use for the contract to be the 10%. And When we talked the last time, we met that minimum amount. Because if you only were producing $40,000 a year, it doesn't make it worthwhile for that company to charge you 10%.
In other words, if it was less than, say, 200,000, they might say, we need 15%
Correct.
to offer the service, or 20%, or whatever
Correct.
that number is.
Yes, and the first time we looked at this a while ago, Jimmy, when he talked to the rep, we had met that threshold at that time.
And like you said earlier, the fees have not gone up in a long time, and I don't know what about other school districts if they've raised their fees, but I mean, just seeing the wear and tear that, you know, that's a pretty illustrative, you know, snapshot. I know that's just one district, it's not our district, but it's probably representative of any facilities anywhere. So,
Out of curiosity, would they be willing to run the numbers so that we could decide preemptively how much we needed to raise, or we should raise the rates? In other words, would they do that, the homework that, in the example that you showed, so that we would know we're way underpricing the football field, or we're way underpricing the gymnasiums?
I will ask that question. I'm pretty sure they, out of all the schools, they have some sort of median average, and they could give us those numbers pretty easily.
Because if we're going to raise the rates, we might as well raise them an appropriate amount rather than just saying 10% or 15%
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yes, I totally agree with that assessment. Again, I will try to get some numbers from them to see what, you know, their average looks like. I do know that at Sac City, once they saw that, what you're asking for, once they saw it in their own numbers, it was easy for the board to say, okay, maybe we aren't charging what should be charged appropriately, and then, you know, go from there. So.
and the Facilitron is able to manage the different tiers. And then I think I saw that we still have final approval, or the district does, so that it will be verified that somebody doesn't sneak in under a tier one, or.
They just, their website hosts it. We go in, our person will go in and approve or deny, just like we're doing now.
Okay,
So if they apply early and try to sneak in under the, you know, radar, we go through and say, no, they're at tier 2, and, you know, they're moved down the list to the next date available for.
I will just say the board has always been in favor of public use of our facilities. What we have not been in favor of is taking money that we could be paying salaries or buying books with and supplementing the fees that people should be using to, or paying to use our facilities. So that would be some really good information to have.
yeah, definitely.
I will get that.
Yeah, I think this is a good system, basically moving from whatever system we have legacy to the cloud-based is always good. And it adds up, you guys have a lot more features, I believe, rather than what we have right now. So I think this is a good idea to guys to move forward, yeah. I think, yeah.
So,
So am I directed to continue?
yes, please.
So we're interested.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, so we'll keep,
I think we're interested in either this, or if you guys find something better, cheaper, or both, then we'd be interested in that as well, I believe.
so we'll keep looking, and if we find something better, we'll bring it back, or if this is what we think we want to do, we'll bring it back as well.
Okay.
And get final approval before we go.
All right.
Point of order, Madam Madam Chair. I think we skipped over this in action and went to,
I think we put it on item 5F.
oh, is this?
Yeah, later. It's,
Oh, all right.
Right, the roll
I put item F under the wrong E.
okay.
My mistake.
No worries. So I think we've got the direction and.
Yeah, I think I have the direction. So we'll work on it, and we'll bring it back to the next meeting and clean it up more and have a more definitive, answer some of the questions and have a more definitive plan.
Okay,
Very good.
yes.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item C, banners, staff report.
Okay, so in your packet, you have the banner authorization form, which you can see on the screen, and the board policy and administrative regulation when it comes to posting of banners or advertisements and things of that nature. The background of the banners is Dr. Nicholas and I were out visiting a school site. Can you put up the pictures? Thank you. And one of those school sites was Cuesta. And there are 13 banners on the fence line for Cuesta. It looks like a AAA ballpark when you drive by it with all the advertisements. They're just not beer and hot dogs and things like that. They're things that are based in the community. And we had a conversation, Dr. Nicholas and I, we both agreed that we should bring this here and have a conversation because banners is kind of a part of facilities. And I think we've brought banner regulations here before in the past to clean them up, and location of banners and whatnot. So one of the things that I wanted to mention or ask the opinion of the group, the committee is, if we're interested in gleaning or getting some control over the banners. Because when I first came here many years ago, if you were on the committee, I believe at that time, if my memory serves me right, we used to require that everyone that put up a banner had a nonprofit number, and that was a mandate. And then what was happening is that there were organizations and things in the community that would benefit our schools that weren't getting advertised because there's no place to do it. So we rolled that back and allowed staff to make approval of things that were things like Montessori or REI in town that are money-making, or they're businesses, but they help our kids, outside of the school day. While continuing to have banners for like West Coast Soccer or some of the soccer organizations that work in town. But what we've noticed is there's a number of organizations from Tracy, there's organizations from Livermore, there's organizations from other regions that are moving into our area and then advertising on, because they can, under the rules currently, on our fences. And what's that?
Because our fees are cheap.
Well, yeah, because our fees are very cheap, exactly. So one of the things the questions I wanted to pose is, does this group want to put some limits on these fences? One of the other things I've done is I've done some non-scientific research, and I've gone around to the schools in my neighborhood in Manteca, and the only banners they put up are for school activities, the military, like Army recruiter, things like that, or youth sports. That's the only things that really go up. And we control what we want to put up on our fences by board policy 1 and regulation 1325. And our rules are laid out here on our authorization form. So I guess that's kind of the background of the ask. I mean, should we go back to having a nonprofit number? Should we go back to you have to be in Lammersville or Mountain House in order to put something up on our fences? Not necessarily from Tracy. We have a Tracy Athletic Club that puts banners up on our fences and things of that nature.
I would be in favor of reining it in, and I don't know if we want to take the discretion away from staff to allow things that benefit our kids just because they're not a nonprofit. But I think some strengthening of the rules and regulations would be appropriate. One thing that, and I know it takes staff time, but I believe somewhere in the board policy, it says that that the banners need to stay in good repair and attached properly and so on and so forth. And I know it takes staff time to police that, but I really think it would be worth doing, where we say your banner's falling off, you have 24 hours, whatever, to take care of it, or we're going to cut it down and throw it away.
That is on the authorization form. So it's right there. And that is something that I think staff can do a better job of, for sure. And I think I agree that's something we should do better on for sure.
Because it looks bad enough to have the fences completely covered with banners. It looks especially bad when half the banners are falling off.
Yeah.
And then Do you have any thoughts, Mr.
I think the banners are good, but there should be a limit rather than putting everywhere, anywhere. So that's what I think, because I see a lot of banners across all the schools, so
Yeah, I
we
definitely,
limit, yeah.
yeah, I definitely think that, well, also, I know that there, you know, is like a range of sizes that people allow, but the 4x6 ones are awfully big and take up a lot of space. I would even be in favor of, you know, making them all have to be adhere to one size. But if, you know, if not, then I think that definitely reducing by at least at a minimum, those organizations that are in Mountain House. And I think Trustee Pombo makes a good point that maybe limiting it to a nonprofit's too limiting. But, you know, the people that live in this community and serve the schools should be the ones that we're prioritizing, that are here in this town, not Livermore or Tracy. Not that, you know, there's anything wrong with supporting those groups either, but with space limited.
They have school
have
districts in
school
both
districts,
those cities
yes.
that are bigger than ours.
Or can
Yeah,
we
and-
limit, like, let's say for each school, they can have a limited 10 banners max? Or maybe put a designation places where they can attach banner, they cannot put anywhere or anywhere or everywhere. We can provide spaces, like, you can put 1, 2, 3 location spots.
And organizations or companies or groups that don't fit our criteria can always get try to get encroachment permits from the CSD. They allow signage to be put up in public areas, so. Another thing that, and this isn't part of our conversation exactly, but when signs are put up for a fair or an event, they should come down immediately when the event is over, rather than sometimes you see a banner still on the fence from an event that happened last month, and, you know, that is, I understand that's staff time consuming, but if they, you know, if they understand they have to take them down and they don't, then they, maybe in the future, they're not allowed to put signs on our fences if they can't follow our rules.
We could do that. On here about the banner size, it's 3x5 or 4x6 is what we've allowed in the past, the size. So anywhere between 3x5 and 4x6. So, yes, and there is a time limit on here too.
Yeah.
And we talk about they'll
Maximum.
be charged a removal fee if they don't take their banner down. Now, we've been a friendly organization and we haven't been charging that fee, but we can start charging that fee because the banners are becoming like our facilities use. Tons of people want to do it now. And the other thing I wanted to point out was the last line of the board policy. It reads, the superintendent or designee also may consider the educational value of the materials or advertisements, the age or maturity of the student's intended audience, and whether the materials or advertisements support the basic educational mission of the district, directly benefit the students, or are intrinsic value to the students or their parents or guardians. That's kind of vague, but
Kind of it.
I apologize. I've sat on this committee for a long time, and I should know the answer to this question. I don't. Are the banner fees tiered? In other words, a company that for profit, even if it's good for our kids, do they pay a higher fee for banners than a nonprofit?
no. There are no fees.
There's no fees, yeah.
Well,
We don't charge fees currently.
okay.
And that was that whole, we rolled back the nonprofit thing because there wasn't much in town and we wanted our kids to have opportunities for the tutoring center, the soccer, whatever. But we could do that. We could tier it.
Anyway, I would be in favor of having a tiered system where if you're a nonprofit, you pay little or nothing. Of course, if you're a foundation or a PTA, you pay nothing. But if it's you know, even if it's a tutoring business or whatever that does benefit our kids, they're making money on our kids, if they want to put a banner, if we allow them to put a banner, they should
It's free.
pay something for it.
Right now, they're essentially getting free advertising, and so I'm in favor of that. And I mean, our facilities handbook tier system is apropos to this also because, you know, anything associated with the school, you know, a leadership group or, you know, a school-run organization would be able to advertise their banners for free. And then other nonprofits pay a minimal fee to rent our facilities, be similar.
I could set something up like that if you want. That would probably, I mean, we are not a part of the business plan of the community, businesses, right? We are not the advertising arm of businesses.
Yeah.
We are the advertising arm for organizations that our kids attend in town. So
Yeah.
I can set something up like that and bring it back. Is that the
And
direction?
Yeah.
we already have a tiered system, so all we have to do is plug numbers into
Yeah.
that tiered system and,
Also, it will encourage, discourage people who just wanted to put the banners for namesake.
And then leave them up, yeah.
and I'm guessing that the Facilitron could handle this as well if we go to Facilitron or some other program like that.
We could potentially automate it in that way. I would believe that to be true. Yeah, we'd have to do some research, but yes. Yeah. So if you want us to research that, is that my direction?
Yeah, that is your direction.
All right,
I think
great.
Consensus, yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll work to clean up the banners as they exist currently.
Okay. Moving on to item D.
And I didn't make that statement as a dig. I was unaware of, I
It's-
guess I could have read the whole.
It's accurate.
the whole
It's
thing,
an
but-
accurate statement.
Item D, language for civic permits, staff report.
So, last year, the last facilities meeting, we talked about, what the, use permit language has, for facilities use. And what we have here is a sample of what it looks like when you go in, on the first page. And then if you turn to the second page, there's a new permit request. It shows you how you click and select a school. And then on the third page, there's a big red circle. The big red circle is how the language was previously. Did you allow ample time for setup and cleanup for your event? If this group recalls, we talked about big events might need to have 15 minutes on the front or the back. And some of the people that rent our facilities don't realize, well, the custodian opens when the permit is initiated. So if you say 6 o'clock, custodian's opening at 6 o'clock, not at 10 till or a quarter till. And if it says till 6 o'clock at night, they're going to close at 6 o'clock, not at 6:15 or 6:30, whatever the case may be. So we came up with this language. Jason and I came up with this language to replace with, and that's the highlighted language, which is, facilities are unlocked at the start time of your permit. Did you allow ample time for setup? And facilities are locked at the end time of your permit. Did you allow ample time for cleanup? So we changed that language to try to make it clear for people that are renting facilities so they understand that part.
I have not done a facilities request in a long time. I used to do them quite often when I was involved with Relay for Life, the American Cancer Society. I haven't done them for a while. When you go on there, this part that's circled, do you have to click some option there for it to allow you to move on?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think it's a great
the
change. I like the language. I mean, you know, not that the language before, I mean, you know, common sense would, but at the same time, you know, there's other things that could happen, like we discussed before, like if the custodian's not supposed to open an event until 6 and nobody else was at school that day, the parking lot may not be open before then. So, you know, you got to think about all those times.
Particularly if you have a large event.
Yeah.
And so the other thing you asked me to do was to go into the fee structure of the handbook, which is is 2 pages on. You'll see it says attachment A at the top. And down there, I put, we added some language there for large-scale events. You know, we have different addendums at the bottom of the tier structure for the high school. And this is mainly at the high school, right? Big events are going to be at the high school, so that we kept it at the high school. And there's other addendums down at the bottom, and we added in highlighted coloring there Large-scale events may be charged an additional half-hour custodial rate for events with 500 participants or more. And we put 500 participants because that's, potentially 250 to 400 cars that are coming in. You got to open the gates, you got to get everything going. And if we force them to do the half hour, then it might help with the larger events. So this is what I put in here to try to help with that request.
Yeah, I think that's a great addition.
I wouldn't even be opposed to it saying a half hour before and a half hour after.
Yeah, I think that,
Cleanup also covers, yeah.
I think so. I mean, a large event like that does take a lot of garbage, and I mean, it's a lot. It's like
And 500 people are a lot of people.
500 people are a lot of people.
A lot of cars to get out of the parking lot and,
Yeah.
And go ahead.
So on this one, my concern would be, I just saw, so it may take more than a half hour, right? So to put a fixed number in there, is that, you know what I mean? Say it takes custodian an hour, and it's like, well, you only said a half hour.
Would we say
That kind of thing?
well,
a minimum of a half an hour, but if,
And then a group that could have 400 people could take just as long, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the numbers there, it's kind of rigid. I don't know if it needs to be. Can't we just, maybe a little more vague, if you didn't provide enough time for cleanup, you will be charged additional custodial time?
does that happen already? Because I believe
It's
if,
there already,
if
yeah.
you go over your time and the custodian, they track and they record their time, right? And so like if if we're renting a basketball court and we're supposed to end at 9 and our people didn't get out of there until 9:15 and then it took the custodian until 10, we would get sent a bill to pay for the difference. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It's already covered with other stuff in here?
Yeah, it is, but I was asked to make it more clear.
Okay, so
So
maybe,
that's what, this was my attempt to make it more clear. We can change it any
we might even put some verbiage in there that any extra custodial time incurred by your event will be charged
yeah,
or something like that.
deducted from your deposit. The deposit goes towards part of the fee, so like they don't get that back, right?
Right, but in here, it already has any use of which results in the need of extra custodial time, either directly by requiring the custodian to be present beyond his or her normal working hours, or indirectly by keeping the custodian from performing regular duties, which will then require additional hours to complete, will be charged at the rate of $37.29 per hour. That is less clear than what I put in there, but it encompasses what's in there. Right, so if you have a custodian that is closing and they're there till 10 o'clock at night, and they're gonna go close an event, and the event goes long, and that custodian has to do extra work, they're gonna be charged because we have to have the custodian work extra long to clean the school, right? I think that's kind of the basis of that line.
Yeah,
So, I mean, we could add verbiage to that saying large-scale events are required to add extra, I mean, I don't know.
Well, one of the issues with this system as compared to Facilitron, is for example, where it says replace with, and it's highlighted right there, we're only allowed so much space in that box. So we have to be very concise how we say it. So if we want to keep adding, extra time for custodians and all these little things, and we run out of room. And so then we have to take off a question or change a question. So I think there was like a COVID-19.
It's not that, it's this on the policy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the facilities handbook.
It's not the civic permits one, it's this one.
Yeah,
It's not in civic permits.
Not a civic
we
permit.
jumped, I think he jumped ahead to
Sorry.
both agenda items, so.
Gotcha.
So we're talking about both kind of at the same time. Sorry about that.
So if you go back to the civic permits, then we're limited on what we can tell them, so it'd have to be in the book.
In the book.
Just saying.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they're good with that language, so we're just talking about the language for the large-scale events.
anyway, the unfortunate part is I don't know if we can put enough language in there
Cover
to,
everything.
to cover, to impress upon people that when you plan an event, you need to allow plenty of time on both ends of your event
Yeah.
to open and close and clean up and allow your people to leave the parking lot and so on and so forth.
But I do think that, I like the idea of, I can't remember if it was you who said it, I think it was you, maybe doing just saying 1/2 hour before the event and 1/2 hour after for the custodial rate for the large groups. And then the language that you pointed out that's already in there, if people read, read the handbook and read that, then they're aware of what will happen if they stay over and cause the custodian to stay late.
What about if you just put a minimum half hour? Instead of additional, like maybe a minimum half hour, it could be more.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it. I like that.
Minimum, and whatever it ends up being, then we add to that.
Whatever.
Yeah,
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Everybody like that?
I like that. Mhm.
Okay.
And the people who are doing large events should be okay with adding half an hour, it should not be.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. I will change that and bring it back.
okay.
Okay.
Sounds good, thank you.
No, that's a good idea.
So that was item D and E covered together. So now we'll move on to item F, which was added to the agenda. It's something to do with Roblin fencing staff report.
So I walked this in. Can you put up the pictures, please? So on multiple occasions, Trustee Pombo and myself, I think on this committee, I think we had this discussion many, many moons ago about adding a gate to the backside of the pool area, which is the picture you see right now. That is the backside of the pool or the east side of the pool area. We have gotten a quote to add a gate in that little alleyway to secure the back storage area, which is further up. You can see the blue things. That's a storage area. And then can you hit the next picture? And then also to put in a gate in this fence right here. You see the fence that is past the bleachers there, to give us access to the restrooms, which you can see through the mesh, and a snack bar, which is right there. It's at the entrance of the football stadium. That was also requested many moons ago. Can you do the next slide, please? This is that same fencing on the stadium side. So it would entail putting in a walkway right there that is ADA compliant. And then can you do the next slide, please? That's just a long shot of the back of the pool area. Jimmy brought Roblin out to the pool while they were doing the Lammersville fencing to look at the project and give us a quote. They gave us a quote for the added gates and hardware, added concrete, and added railing if necessary for ADA, depending on the slope that they can get with the cement pour. It would be a cost of $28,158. I'd like to use facilities use fees to pay for this because I think it will benefit all of the people that use the pool, all the different groups. It'll benefit, it'll benefit the groups that use the pool because they'll have that area that has the snack bar, the extra restrooms. They could set up tents over there. They could set up food over there when they have big tournaments and whatnot or meets. So
But I think that the high school swim team and the high school water polo team and maybe athletic director Nunn could speak to this, but I don't think they've held a lot of large tournaments because of, that's part of the reason. And this, and bathrooms are an issue. And at the pool, it's hard at a swim meet to get to the bathrooms because you want to kind of secure the deck. And I think it's great just for our high school students alone, not to mention anybody else who might be using it.
and we don't allow food on the deck, no drinks, but I believe we allow bottled water only on the deck. So this would allow for, a little more family centered events,
Yeah.
whether it's outside organizations or inside.
And now, a group that would rent this outside of a school group, and use that gate when it's done, and have tents at the football field. Do we need to update the handbook with some rules about where the tents could go? Because, we want to protect our turf and I know we don't have food down there on the track or the football field, right? So we might have to have set some kind of guidelines and rules about how they police that. And
We would, and if we put this through and get this rolling, then that would be my next assignment is to add some language to the handbook, which with some pictures showing what access they would have, an added fee. I think that would be an added fee because we would have to,
Yes.
that's 2 more bathrooms to clean. And if they use a snack bar, there's a separate snack bar fee when you use the stadium, so we'd have to include that, and so on. So, yeah, we would have to do all that,
Okay.
those items, yeah.
Well,
I think it's an absolutely appropriate use of
Same,
facilities funds.
yeah,
So my direction is to take it to the next board meeting.
Yep.
Okay,
yes.
I will do so.
Moving on to item 6A, future agenda topics. Staff report or anybody on the committee have any topics that they want to bring up in the future?
The,
Yeah, I'm gonna write it down before you even say it. Water fill stations?
Water fill
Yes.
stations?
Okay.
and I don't know if it's more appropriate to have that here or at the next board meeting. I don't have a preference. It might be good at the board meeting, actually, because then the whole board could hear the update.
Water fill, yeah, water fill stations. We've actually been working on that. I mean, it doesn't sound, but he and I have scouted out where to try and do a proof of concept and the wiring and the plumbing and doing parts of it in-house except for the wiring, for obvious reasons. And, you know, there's going to be some wiring that's going to need to be done, like at Wickland, because I think the closest power is up around in the attic and in the overhang. So we will get the cost of the water fill stations and try to spec out what the cost would be to do a combined, our staff and our electrical contractor to do one station. And then maybe we can figure out how we want to pay for that. That's the other. The contractors are so expensive. Everything's so
Yeah.
expensive. So,
Okay. Any other items anybody wants to bring up? No? Seeing none, move on to item B, the 2023-2024 meeting dates. Next meeting is November 2nd at 6:30 PM in the district office boardroom. And, and then December 14th, 6:30 PM, district office boardroom. February 1st, 2024, 6:30 PM, district office boardroom. March 14th, 2024, 6:30 PM, district office boardroom, and May 9th, 2024, 6:30 PM, district office boardroom. And I think some of those are tentative meetings as needed, March and December being those two meetings that if we need them, we'll meet, and if not, no. So, having no more items of business to discuss, we are adjourned at 7:43 PM.